So, Karl, have you already got your tickets pre-booked for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them: The Crimes of Grindelwald?
No, he looks like a bag of shit.
You say that about every new film.
Most of them are, though.
Modern cinema.
It is, isn't it?
Bags of shit.
Bags of wank. I love that. It reminds me of like the funniest moment of my entire life, and like the most I have ever respected another human being. And I was sat in geography when I was like 14 years old, and a guy wrote on his desk in permo marker, "Geography is a bag of wank." And the geography teacher saw it and went ape shit and yelled at him, "Why did you write that on your desk?" And he looked at her dead in the eye and went, "Because geography is a bag of wank." And she just went completely sheet white because she didn't know how to respond to such a statement. And I was like, that's the level of fuck giving I want to achieve in my lifetime. Just writing geography is a bag of wank. Why'd you write that? Because geography is a bag of wank. Thanks to the success of the Harry Potter franchise, J.K. Rowling is free to spend most of her time arguing with people on Twitter and actively ruining her own universe by retconning the shit out of it. Weirdly though, the only reason that J.K. Rowling is a super multimillionaire today is because many years ago, some dipshit had the bright idea to ask a child about their opinion of a children's book.
So, let's get this video rolling. Do you want me to leave?
Ordinarily I'd say yeah for such a shit pun, but because you know I can shit on Harry Potter for hours at a time without stopping, I need someone here to keep me on track, so I'll forgive you this one time.
Okay, I'm very sorry.
Please stop making crap puns.
So, given the introduction we've just had,
Yes.
I'm assuming that today we're talking about exactly how Rowling got the first book published.
Yes, we are. It's actually quite an interesting story, and one that there is a lot of misinformation about, which we can talk about for a minute now, because it's actually quite interesting.
What do you mean there's misinformation?
Well, as you can imagine, the story of how Harry Potter got written and was eventually published when it's recounted by J.K. Rowling herself tends to cast her in quite a positive light, as you'd imagine, because obviously we're all the hero of our own story. But there's a couple of things that she's like made claims about in the past that don't really hold much water when you give them like the slightest bit of scrutiny.
For example?
One of my favourite claims that Rowling has made is that when she was sending out manuscripts of the first Harry Potter book to publishers and literary agents, see if they were interested in it, she says that she would retype out the same chapters each and every time and post them because it was cheaper than going and getting the first one she had photocopied.
It can't have been that expensive to do a photocopy though, right?
Also, as I like to point out, that most literary agents and publishing houses will generally post your manuscript back if you include in it an envelope with postage on it and your address. And I'm going to just put it out there, I think a second-class stamp and an envelope is cheaper and less time-intensive than retyping out an entire fucking manuscript again and then buying another envelope and putting postage on that. So I'm not saying she didn't do it the first few times, but I'm going to guess, considering she claims to have sent out dozens of manuscripts to every publisher and literary agent she could find, after the first 3 you'd think, maybe there's an easier way than typing out these same 3 chapters every single fucking time.
Doesn't she also claim that she sent copies of it to every single person she could think of?
Yeah, pretty much every literary agent and publishing house in the country got sent like the first few chapters of Harry Potter while she was looking for someone to take interest in it. And I just find it baffling that anyone would believe someone would be stupid enough to retype it out every single time rather than just going to a Western Union and photocopying it a few times, because doing that would be too expensive. Which leads me into the second part of her story, which I always find quite hilarious.
Do you know how much photocopy did cost in the 90s though?
I don't know, I'm going to guess though, even if it costs a bit, I would sit there and think, my time is worth more than this. After the first 4 times I typed out 3 chapters of the same book, I'd go, there's got to be an easier way. And I would just wait a couple of weeks and just put aside a couple of quid each and every time you could and then go get photocopied, because that's less time consuming.
So you're either saying that she was too stupid to think of a more convenient way, or she's just lying?
Not lying so much as exaggerating, because that does make for an interesting story, doesn't it? Oh yeah, she was so poor, she had to retype out the first 3 chapters of Harry Potter every single time and send them to each of the publishing houses you try to contact because it was cheaper than photocopying. It's doesn't ink cost money? She was writing these things on a typewriter. Doesn't paper cost money? I'm going to guess, given by how scarce they are in Resident Evil 2, ink ribbons are quite scarce. So I've always found that aspect of the story of how Harry Potter got published quite hilarious. Just to me, I just imagine someone sat there on a typewriter, typing one out, posting it and going, oh no, now I haven't got another copy. I better write another one. I just think, why? Just send a postage envelope with the fucking manuscript saying, can you please post it back if you're not interested? Because it's the secretary who opens all these things anyway. It takes them 4 seconds to go, oh, okay, we don't want it. Put it in our outgoing mail.
So you also mentioned money there.
Yes, because if you look at most versions of the story of how Harry Potter got published, it's usually framed as a rags to riches story. And what you can do is go find like one such article and put some quotes below me to show how they portray J.K. Rowling as like this struggling single mother, which she was at the time. She was a single mother with a young daughter. I'm not going to deny that. And she did quit her job and she was on unemployment benefits. Something that's left out of this story of oh yeah, she was struggling. She was going to cafes because she couldn't afford to put her heating on. Is that she got an £8,000 grant from the Scottish Arts Council before Harry Potter was even accepted by a publisher or literary agent, because they were that confident that the story would be a success. Now I want you for me now, Brad, to just below me in one of those little fact bars, just let the audience know how much £8,000 in 1990s money would be worth in today's money. And on top of that, I'd like to point out she also got a £4,000 loan, which was basically a gift from a friend. So she got £12,000 while writing Harry Potter, in addition to all the other, unemployment benefits she got.
So photocopying was too expensive.
But she had an £8,000 grant from the Scottish Arts Council specifically to help her write and get the book published, which I'm going to guess involved getting copies made. And the thing about this is, if you look at most versions of the story of how the book got written, they never mention this art grant fucking anywhere, because obviously you can't really say it's a rags to rich story where she's living on the breadline, but she also had £8,000.
So newspapers and websites, they're bound to be a bit sensationalist about the story. It sounds more impressive.
Yes, it does.
What does J.K. Rowling herself say about her origins there?
Well, in regards to her financial situation while she was writing the first Harry Potter book, J.K. Rowling has gone on record as saying she was as poor as it's possible to be without being homeless. Because people who are living on the breadline and have no money whatsoever just randomly get £8,000 from the Scottish Arts. I should point out as well, this grant was unprecedented at the time, because the idea of a unknown, unproven author who's never got a book published getting a grant from the Scottish Arts Council of this size was virtually unheard of. And also she did get that £4,000 loan from her friend, which was she says it was a loan, but it was basically a gift. Do you know when someone says, oh mate, I'll lend you a tenner, and then they never really asked for it back, only it was £4,000. And she's claiming at the same time, yeah, but I was as poor as it's possible to be without being homeless.
To be honest, when you frame it like that, it does sound a little bit disingenuous.
Yeah, I'm not saying she didn't struggle for a bit before she got that grant or that gift from her friend, but when you say, oh, I was as poor as it's possible to be without being homeless, it's when you know for a fact you got an amount of money, the people in that situation you describe would consider life-changing, you don't even acknowledge it, I think that does come across as a bit crass. But anyway, I digress. After sending out dozens of manuscripts to every literary agent and publishing house she could think of, Rowling finally managed to convince a literary agent called Christopher Little to take her on as a client.
So what did Christopher Little do?
Basically, he just spent a few months getting shit on J.K. Rowling's behalf, sending out the manuscript to various publishing houses to try and get someone there, anyone there, to read a single chapter of it.
Do you reckon Christopher Little typed out the manuscripts every time as well?
No, I'm guessing he photocopied it like a normal person would. Just like Rowling had, Little found himself being stonewalled by publishers, many of whom discarded the manuscript without even reading it.
Looking back from a modern perspective, those Harry Potter books are all incredibly successful.
Yes, they are.
And, they're pretty decent as well.
Yeah, you could argue one way or the other. But yes, they are incredibly successful today. And looking back with, hindsight, which we all know is 2020, it seems a little bit stupid for publishers to so readily discard the manuscript for a book that ended up selling more copies than the fucking Bible in some territories. And the feedback that Rowling and Little got from most of the publishers they contacted was, this is simply too long to be a children's book. Something I'm going to guess the bricks of fiction known as the last 4 Harry Potter books openly laugh at. Because those books are fucking long, aren't they?
They're gigantic.
They're so long. So I remember when I bought it and it's this is a brick. I could do some damage with this. So those later Harry Potter books, to me, the reason they're so long is it's the literary equivalent of painting yourself into a corner and trying to get out of it. Because there's so much of those books dedicated to explaining stuff that's contradicted in early books.
Like the one chooses the wizard.
Yeah, the one chooses the wizard, except when Harry uses other people's wand all the time and it never makes any difference.
Yeah, the Draco thing always annoyed me.
Yeah.
The disarming someone
means their wand belongs to you.
Not just their wand, any other one that answers to them. So somehow that wand knew
So wands are sentient.
Well,
but
I think that's the assumption, that
Yeah.
a wand is sentient, but it's made with like a feather or some shit.
yeah, but then you can snap it in half and it's completely like unable to be repaired ever.
If the wand's a sentient, that means he murdered that wand. Harry is a wand murderer.
Also, as well, the thing that always cracks me up is the fact he snaps his own wand by fire. Why do people like this? Is supposedly you only get one in your life, don't you? They always say like your first wand is the one that chooses you. And every time you hear about someone else in the Harry Potter series getting a new wand, even if it was chosen for them, like Ollivanders, they say it just doesn't feel the same. Why doesn't everyone just do what like fucking Malfoy's dad does and put it inside a cane? Because at least he's protecting it. He's the only person in that entire universe who protects his fucking wand, the most valuable item to a witch or a wizard.
Hagrid also protects his inside his umbrella. His one fragment.
Well, he says that 'cause he has to hide it, doesn't he? So you see, oh, I haven't got my wand. But the thing that always cracks me up is, why aren't, like, Wiimote-style wrist straps, like, the de facto accessory for witches and wizards in the Harry Potter universe? Because how many plot points in Harry Potter hinge on someone getting disarmed and their wand just going... Imagine how much of the main cast would have been immediately killed if, like, the Death Eaters invested in just wrist straps for their wands. Like, Expelliarmus! It's like, oh, I didn't expect this. Or even just like, get one with a fucking great big handle on it. It's like, at least put a handle on your wand.
I just like the idea of it being attached to your wrist with elastic, so that when someone does Expelliarmus, it just spins away and comes straight back.
Like, it's just so stupid, isn't it? Like, the number, like, it is your most valuable possession and the thing that, like, basically allows you to do magic, and nobody looks after them.
In the final film, obviously in the book, Harry uses the Elder Wand to repair his own wand.
Yes.
But in the film, he doesn't. So I find myself thinking that Harry doesn't have a wand now. Unless he's going to keep using Draco's, which is apparently just as good.
Yeah.
Or he could go, because his wand had a twin.
Oh, it did, didn't he? Just steal Voldemort's wand.
He could steal Voldemort's old wand, yeah.
It's just so dumb, isn't it? It's like, because you think, being such like this conduit of unimaginable magical power, it'd be like harder to break than a twig. And it's just like, oh wow, great, the Elder Wand, crafted by Death himself. Like, Death's own hand created this wand. Can you imagine that? It's like Mjolnir. It's like it's forged by, like, the dwarven gods from the dying heart of, like, the dying heart of a star. And Thor goes up to it and just goes,
No, not Thor. Daniel Radcliffe. In Thor Ragnarok, when Hela got hold of that, Daniel Radcliffe should have walked out from the side and just snapped it in half.
Oh,
and
you know what you
walked
have to
away.
do now, don't you? You have to put Daniel Radcliffe's face on Hela as she just shatters Mjolnir. Because apparently he has the ability to destroy, like, legendary weapons of power.
What other legendary weapon? The One Ring? Harry Potter could have just...
Yeah, he just crushes it in his hand.
Sauron's like, no.
It's like, I didn't think of this. It's like, you think the One Ring, even though it's like just a brass fucking ring, you got to throw it into a volcano. The Elder Wand could have been broken if Voldemort sat down in his chair wrong. The Elder Wand is like less hardy than an iPhone 6. Think about that. The Elder Wand is as easy to break as a fucking iPhone. If Voldemort would have sat down in his robe just a bit too quickly, or, like, awkwardly, he would have, like, just destroyed the most powerful weapon in that universe.
I prefer the theory, though, that Daniel Radcliffe is an interdimensional god who can break any artifact of any power. The Elder Wand was almost indestructible, except for Radcliffe.
It's not even Harry Potter. He's just so dumb, isn't it? It's like, oh my god. It's like, you just think, what a stupid fucking universe. Like, oh, it's the conduit of all your magical power. You can't do any magic without this. Oh, I guess I'll just, like, keep it in my pocket then.
It's such a stupid universe, and yet it's so good.
It's like the thing of, like, at least people put their phone in a fucking protective case. At least people do that.
They should sell wand cases.
You'd think they'd at least have that, wouldn't you? Or you think they'd start making it out of wood other than stuff that can be snapped. Like, there's probably some dickhead out there who thought, you know what I'm going to make my wand out of? Because all you need is the core. I'm just going to get a fucking iron bar. I'm going to get a fucking railroad spike and strap a phoenix feather to the end of it. Getting back to how Harry Potter was published, after countless rejections from multiple publishers, Little decides to call in a favour with the head of Bloomsbury, Nigel Newton.
So hang on, not only did J.K. Rowling get an £8,000 grant to help with her writing...
And a £4,000 loan.
And a £4,000 loan. She also had an agent who knew the head of the biggest publishing house in the country.
Yes, what a rags to riches story this is. Oh, my literary agent just so happens to be best friends with the guy who's the head of Bloomsbury. Oh, woe is me. I only had £12,000 to live on and spent every day in a cafe drinking coffee typing on an old-ass typewriter. That must have cost more than most people fucking earn in a week. But oh no, woe is me. And my favourite bit is, like, obviously, Little contacted Nigel Newton and said, look, I've got a manuscript here, I think it's pretty good. Will you give it a read? And Newton went, okay, maybe I'll read it if I can remember to give a shit.
So what exactly did Little give to Newton?
He gave him the first chapter of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, asked him to read it if he had time.
Which he then obviously read.
No, because obviously he was the head of Bloomsbury and he had shit to do. But what Newton did do is give that chapter to his 7-year-old daughter, making him the only publisher who thought, maybe I should let a child read this children's book.
So what did his daughter think of the book?
Oh, she loved it, and she read it reportedly in less than an hour and approached her dad and said, Dad, what happens to the boy? I want to read the rest of this book. And you think at this point, maybe Newton would realise maybe there's something to this book. I should probably get in contact with, Christopher Little and see what's going on here. But no, he ignored this information and wrote it off as a fluke. Newton's daughter didn't take no for an answer and proceeded to bug her father about what happened to the boy and whether she could read the rest of the book every single time he came home from work.
So I imagine after like a week or two, you'd think, she's not going to show up. I may as well just get the book.
Yeah, you think he's the head of Bloomsbury Publishing House and he knows Christopher Little personally. It's not hard for him to call and say, look, my daughter liked that chapter, can I just have the rest of the book? At the very least, to shut his daughter up. Not even to get it published, just to shut his daughter up because she's asking him every single time he came home from work. But no, he ignored her repeated pleas to read the rest of that book, not for weeks, for months. And you'd think, after 2-3 months, if your daughter is still obsessed with finding out what happens in this book, you'd maybe start to think, something about this seems to resonate with children. Because how short attention span do children have? And she's still months later going, Dad, what happens to the boy? Dad, what happens to the boy? And I've got to say, Nigel Newton must have the fucking patience of a saint. So that he can listen. It's that thing in The Simpsons, isn't it? It's like, can we go to Duff Gardens? 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 And Homer gives up after 2 days. He went off, he survived this for 6 months of his daughter going, Dad, what happens to the boy? What happens to the boy? What happens to the boy? It's like that moment from Shrek, innit? Do the raw. 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 And even Shrek, an ogre, who's used to having pitchforks thrown at his arsehole, gives up after 14 minutes. Nigel Newton, what a fucking boss that guy is for ignoring the pleas of his daughter.
Shrek's also a father at that point.
I know, he's got 3 ogre children. And Nigel Newton's no, it's fine. It's like, Dad, what happens to the boy? No. What happens to the boy? No. What happens to the boy? Not now. What happens to the boy? Not now.
If anyone's struggling to visualise this, just imagine what it was like the day before the 7th Harry Potter book was published.
Oh, man.
How rabid the fans were.
Yeah, and he's got that localised entirely within his own fucking home. It's ridiculous, isn't it? After literally months of being bugged by his daughter about what happened to the boy in that book, Newton thought, okay, there's probably something to this, I'll agree to publish it.
So Bloomsbury published the book, it went on to sell loads of copies and became a huge success.
Not exactly, no, because Newton apparently didn't share the enthusiasm for the book that his daughter did, and he ordered a grand total of 500 copies. Reasoning that, if the book sold well, him and Rowling might make a little bit of money. I was like, while I'm saying that, just put behind me that screenshot of J.K. Rowling on the front of Forbes, where she's just sat there with her arms crossed. It's like the richest author in the world or some shit below it. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
A little bit of money.
We're going to order 500 copies because you know what? It might make us a little bit of money. And it went on to say, the thing is that even if it sold those 500 copies, it wouldn't even make as much money as Rowling got from that fucking grant.
So I'm guessing that's the end of this video. There's not much more to talk about, is there?
No, there's one more bit of hilarity I need to mention because this is fucking brilliant. Many of the reviewers who reviewed early copies of Harry Potter shared the same scepticism as Bloomsbury did. And they said that although the book is quite good, we don't think it'll make all that much money because it's too long for a children's book. And that's a fair criticism because at the time, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was quite a long book to expect children to read. But my favourite example of reviewer sticking to their guns about it not being a success is a guy called Nigel Reynolds, who, after printing a positive review of the book, received a signed first edition copy from J.K. Rowling herself as a thank you. And do you know what he did with it?
What?
Threw it immediately in the bin. For anyone curious, it's estimated that if that copy wouldn't have been thrown in the bin, Reynolds could have sold it for hundreds of thousands of pounds today. So for all you people out there who very well might be going to see the first of God knows how many sequels to a film based on a story inside of a book that got made into its own 8-film franchise, that film would not exist if not for the fact some dipshit many years ago had the bright idea to let a child read the first chapter of a children's book to see if it was any good.
You don't realise how unbelievably convoluted the Fantastic Beasts setup is until you start to go through it like that.
Yeah, when you describe it the way I just did them, because if you really think about it, the fact this film even got made is impressive, because Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is mentioned offhand in like one of the Harry Potter books. So like, we've had the Harry Potter books, which got made, and then J.K. Rowling wrote a full-fledged version of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them for comic relief, which I think had a limited run of so many thousands of copies that she probably forgot all about. And then they made all the Harry Potter movies, which made like billions of fucking dollars at the box office. She refused to write any more. So what they did is went, oh, what else can we scavenge from this universe? Oh, there's an offhand comment about this thing that J.K. Rowling wrote, like, you know, one-off for charity and wrote like 3,000 copies or whatever the fuck. We could turn that into a fully fledged movie on its own. And now we're going to make a sequel to that movie, which also somehow links to the first Harry Potter books and stuff in the first suit. It's, oh my God, what the fuck? It's ridiculous. And the thing is, though, that's not even the most convoluted timeline out there. Because my favourite example of this is the Scorpion King movies. So the setup to Scorpion King 1 is already convoluted enough on its own because it's a prequel spin-off focused on a tertiary character from the second Mummy movie.
It was a prequel spin-off, but then Scorpion King 2 is the sequel to Scorpion King 1, but is a prequel
To the Mummy.
No, to Scorpion King 1.
Oh,
it's
So, wait, so Scorpion King 2 is a prequel to the prequel spin-off based on a side character. So, like, we're already getting, like, think about how ridiculous it is, and we're only on the second movie. I've never even seen the third one. So let me get it straight. The second Scorpion King movie is a sequel, but also a prequel to a prequel that is also a spin-off.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't describe it as a sequel, aside from the fact that it's called 2, but it's a prequel of the prequel spin-off to a sequel of a film. Oh, are you ready for this?
Okay, go on.
Oh my God, there's a fifth one.
There's a fifth
one?
Hang on.
Oh
my God, go on. Bro, I didn't know there was a fifth one.
So this is the Mummy timeline.
Okay, yeah, go on.
So you start off with the Scorpion King 2,
Okay,
Rise
obviously,
of the Warrior.
you've got to start with Scorpion King 2, and what do you go on to from that?
Scorpion King.
Scorpion King, okay.
Then Scorpion King 3, Battle for Redemption.
Okay, so it goes Scorpion King 2, 1, 3. This sounds like Devil May Cry.
Then Scorpion King 4, Quest for Power.
Okay.
Then Scorpion King 5, Book of Souls.
Okay, what's Scorpion King 5? Holy shit.
And then there's The Mummy and The Mummy Returns. Then The Mummy Animated Series.
Oh,
then
yeah, shit.
The Mummy movie prequel, The Rise and Fall of Zango's Axe.
What? I didn't even know that was a thing.
Then Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, and then 2017 Mummy.
No, that can't be. That's not like chronologically, is it? Surely that's not linked to the Rick O'Connor universe.
Well, it's got the book in it, so that people can argue
shit,
it was, yeah.
Fuck. Do you know what this reminds me of? It's like, it's almost as bad. Have you ever tried to have you ever seen that graph where someone tries to nail down the timeline for the Tony Hawk series of games? And they work out that the actual timeline splits. And there's one where Tony never meets Bam Margera and one where he does. And the one where he meets Bam Margera is where it goes on like the World Destruction Tour and where Tony Hawk eventually dies at the end of it. And the one where he doesn't is where Tony Hawk becomes really obsessed with racing. And that's where you get like downhill jam and all that shit. But holy shit, I didn't know there was a fifth one.
So apparently the fifth one, which isn't called the fifth one because they're embarrassed.
Okay, yeah.
Scorpion King Book of Souls is released this year, 2018.
Oh wow, don't go see Crimes of Grindelwald then. Just go watch Scorpion King 5 on your chosen direct-to-video streaming service.
I'm going to sell it now by reading out the synopsis.
Okay, read out the synopsis.
For the fans.
Come on.
The Scorpion King teams up with a female warrior named Tala, who is the sister of the Nubian king. Together, they search for a legendary relic known as the Book of Souls, which will allow them to put an end to an evil warlord.
Okay, and what? Please just tell me what it like. I want to know the exact definition of what this film is. Is it a reboot? Is it a sequel?
I think this one is the fourth sequel. No. Right, it's the fourth sequel.
You've got it in front of you. You can't even like.
Well, I haven't looked at the third and fourth one yet, but this one, I think it's the fourth sequel to the first one because that one has the prequel.
Okay, so it's the fourth sequel to a prequel spin-off of the first sequel of another franchise, which has just been rebooted.
And apparently, Zach McGowan plays Matthias.
Who the fuck's Matthias?
Matthias is the Scorpion King.
Oh, okay.
But I thought you were more likely to say who the fuck's Zach McGowan.
Who the fuck's Zach McGowan then?
No idea.
Okay, he's not The Rock, is he?
He's not. Let's look at number 4.
Okay. This is like when we explored the Air Bud cinematic
Now,
universe.
I'm going to make a point here that I am now going through these backwards, but I don't think it really matters.
I don't think it does, yeah. Considering the second movie in this franchise is a prequel to a prequel.
So, Scorpion King 4, Quest for Power, previously titled The Lost Throne, is the fourth installment and the seventh film.
Of the Mummy franchise.
When he is betrayed by a trusted friend, Matthias must marshal all his strength and cunning.
Oh, wait. Who's the Scorpion King played by in that one?
In this one. Victor Webster.
Okay, now go to the third one and find out who he's played in that.
Ron Perlman's in the third one.
Is he playing the Scorpion King?
No, I think.
Go on, who plays the Scorpion King in this one?
It's Victor Webster again.
Okay, cool.
So he got there for two of them.
Victor Webster said, I'll appear in the third one and the fourth one, but fuck appearing in that fifth one. I guess well done you, Victor Webster, for having some dignity.
I love how Billy Zane and Ron Perlman are credited before Victor Webster.
He's the main character. He plays the title character in the movie. He plays the Scorpion King.
Oh man, Ron Perlman cashing a fucking check there.
Ron Perlman is putting in the least amount of effort for this
From
one,
the
isn't he?
producer of The Mummy.
Like, anyone's a producer. Fucking Brendan Fraser was a producer on the third one.
What's the Mummy movie prequel?
Wait, there's a prequel to the
Well,
movie.
it's a comic book series.
Oh, yeah. So before we go, I need to mention this because this is a fact that I learned and it made me incredibly sad. Do you know after Tomb of the Dragon Emperor bombed at the box office, and obviously they decided like the Mummy franchise is dead now, let's reboot it with Tom Cruise. Do you know what the original idea for a sequel to that movie was going to be?
What?
It was going to be one where Rick O'Connor, Brendan Fraser signed on for a fourth one, said, yeah, I'll make one more of these things, and then we're going to go to the Mayan temples and fight Mayan mummies, and the lead bad guy was going to be played by Antonio Banderas. So you would have had Mayan mummies with an evil Antonio Banderas commanding them with old-ass Brendan Fraser shotgunning his way through them. And instead they made the Tom Cruise one.
That's sad.
Yeah, that's a sad point to go down in it. And instead, we can't get that movie, but we can get Fantastic Beasts 2 and Scorpion King 5. Fuck's sake, there's no justice in the world, is there?
Wait there, Carl.
Oh, fuck's sake.
One more thing.
Okay.
Impromptu update on the Universal Dark Universe.
Oh, fuck's sake. Go on then.
So I typed in Universal Dark Universe.
Okay, is he not dead yet?
And could not find any.
The Wikipedia page has got more information on it than the fucking Universal's own website.
I've set Google to look at the search results from the past month. Top result: why the Conjuring universe has beaten the Dark Universe.
The Conjuring universe is better than the universe.
Forbes: how to fix Universal's Dark Universe.
How do you fix it? There's nothing there. There's one movie in it and it sucks a huge bunch of balls.
There's someone selling a T-shirt for it on Redbubble.
Oh my god, I'm done. How do you save something that's already dead?